Hey guys, it's Phil here again. Some of you know me as the CEO or founder of Zonmaster, but I want to talk for a few brief minutes about programming because I kind of came about into this situation because I decided to become a programmer. And the reason I decided to become a programmer was that I used to be a professional musician when I was younger. I started playing pro when I was about 16 and did that for quite some time. And it was an interesting life. I kind of got tired of the lifestyle and all of that, but the real factor was that I wasn't making any money. And I was successful. I was playing in a lot of bands and I was doing a lot of things. And now I look back and I say, I didn't capitalize on that, which will probably be another video that I talk about, but I was broke and I thought, what's making money? And writing software was making money. So I got into programming. And programming, at that time I chose Macintosh because, I liked the Macintosh. I was a musician. Musicians liked Apple products even back then. This is in the late 80s. It was a cool thing to do. So I kind of lied my way into getting a job and taught myself how to write software for the Macintosh. And then that was starting out, I think at that time we were using Object Pascal maybe, and then we could move on to C++ and so on and so forth. And then I got into web development. But you out there's so many channels that talk about programming and what you can do, and I think that that's not really the issue. The language you choose is not the issue. It might affect some minor things about marketability and so on, but the real impact and the thing that changed my life and my job so much is that I chose not to just be a programmer sitting in my desk writing software. I wanted to see the big picture. I never worked for big companies. I always worked for small companies because then I knew I could get involved in the machinations of that company. I could see from we say full stack development goes from, the user back to the data storage. Well, I wanted full stack exposure to the business. I wanted to know from the CEO on down what was happening inside that business. And that's how I learned. And if you want to just be a programmer, if you want to just sit and write software, go ahead. There's a million channels. You can go out there and people will talk about how you can write in JavaScript or you can use PHP or Python or whatever. And you can get your skills. But all I'm saying is that will lead to a dead end. Because you'll get to a point where you're older and people won't want to hire you because they think older people are more expensive and all the rest of this stuff. And you won't have anything except a skills set of writing software. And that's not bad. I mean, that's a cool skill set to have and it's valuable and all of that. But the real value comes in what you can offer to a business. And I think from about 15 years ago, maybe even more, my niche as a contractor or whatever you want to call it was that I would go into a business and I would do targeted development, full stack development to answer problems because I could speak the right language to the people on the board and say, look, I will do this job that you need doing that your tech people can't seem to get done, and I'll report to you. And they didn't look at me as some nerd who they were going to have to, this is a guy who's just going to write some software and we don't understand that. I could go in there and I could talk in a kind of business perspectives way that the board members felt comfortable in giving me this huge responsibility. And I'm going into a company, I worked in some companies where our turnover was high, hundreds of millions of dollars, a year, and they would entrust me to go in and write something that was full stack and had full exposure. And I did that for quite some time, and that's how I learned how to create my businesses as well, and what worked and what didn't work and what people were frustrated about and the ridiculousness that I saw. And my first businesses were always an answer to that kind of craziness that I saw. So this video I was going to call Let's Talk Programming, because programming is just this thing, this slice of the pie. Of course, if that's your lead, and it's my lead, is that I can write the software, you have to be competent at it. You have to be able to produce. You don't want to be one of the, or otherwise you're just a marketing guy who goes and hires a programmer. Yeah, that's fine too. But if you're a programmer, learn all the rest, and then you can go in and say, you can get bigger and better jobs, bigger and better responsibility, and you can take bigger risks and run your own companies and have a lot more confidence as you build all this stuff up. I think programmers, we have a unique perspective on business because of that, because we have a technical skill, and also if you do it right, you have a business and marketing exposure as well. I'm going to do another video about hiring to cover your weak spots, because of course you can't be everything. I'm not saying that I am everything, and in those situations where I was hired to do targeted work, I wasn't involved in the marketing of that work. There was marketing of that stuff that I was doing and all the rest of it. I was hired as a technical person who didn't frighten the board. And I think that that's a great position to be in. So that's my little tip about programming, is to don't just be a programmer. The world actually doesn't need more programmers, or there's no shortage of those people. We'll find those people. What the world needs is people like you who are going to go out there with a wider interest and a wider exposure and create something bigger and better. All right. Talk to you later.